Diplomatic arrival. The Grand Hall of the Galactic Council shimmered with sterile perfection. Air scrubbed of particulates. Temperature held at a universal neutral, and not a single drop of moisture to be seen. Dozens of delegates from across the Orion Arm reclined in floating conference pods, their various biologies carefully accommodated. And then the humans walked in, clad in crisp, breathable uniforms and lightly glistening from the humid shuttle bay. The five-member Earth delegation stepped into the chamber with a confidence that bordered on obliviousness. A faint wave of disgust rolled through the room. Counselor Dravkin of the Crass Coalition recoiled within his exosuit, multiple eyes narrowing. They're secreting. Ambassador Lin Zhao, leading the human team, smiled and extended a hand toward the nearest delegate, a towering arthropoid from Soren Prime. The creature didn't move. "Ah," Lin said, drawing her hand back awkwardly. "No handshakes." "Got it." From the upper balcony, a hydrophobic species from Drain clicked its throat membranes furiously. They're exuding fluid from their skins. "Are they wounded?" Counselor TRX of the Zephyrid Hive consulted its neural assistant. "No. Ambassador Zhao is currently at thermal equilibrium. This appears deliberate." Another human, a younger man named Reyes, uncapped a steel bottle and took a long, dramatic sip. The chamber collectively gasped. Did it just consume oxidizing solvent? Counselor Dravkin whispered. "Raw." Lin glanced around. "You mean water?" The room erupted into whispers, clicks, hums, and frantic telepathic exchanges. Water. H2O. The most reactive, life-disrupting molecule known to over 80% of Council species. On most member worlds, it was a substance handled with extreme caution, if at all. It corroded circuits, disrupted cell walls, and in some cases outright, dissolved entire life forms. And these humans drank it. More than that. They wore clothing soaked in it, exhaled it, sweated it, and, according to preliminary Earth scans, lived surrounded by it. Counselor Vrel, a shimmering mist-based life form from Nebulan Drift, floated forward cautiously. "Forgive the intrusion, Ambassador, but do you regularly ingest water?" Lin raised an eyebrow. "Every day. 8 cups minimum. More if I'm training. Hydration is crucial for optimal function." One of the delegates emitted a terrified squeal and zipped backward. Council Speaker Oren, one of the few silicon-based neutrals, cleared his throat. "Perhaps it would be educational to elaborate on your species' relationship with water." Lin blinked. "Sure. We evolved on a planet that's about 71% ocean. Our bodies are roughly 60% water. We need it to survive. We sweat to cool down, cry when emotional, and even submerge ourselves recreationally." A gelatinous delegate gagged audibly. "Recreationally?" Oren repeated. "You mean you willingly immerse yourselves in this substance?" "Sure," Reyes chimed in, grinning. "Swimming, diving, surfing, kayaking, skinny dipping." Lin shot him a look. "Not helping." Reyes took another sip. "What? It's not like we're going to stop drinking it just because it grosses out our new friends." Counselor Dravkin twitched violently. "You expose your internal membranes to it as well." A pause. "You mean the mouth?" Lin asked. The counselor staggered. A medical drone caught him mid-faint and dragged him to a decontamination pod. Speaker Oren's normally calm tone took on a higher pitch. "Are all humans like this?" "Pretty much," Lin replied. "Some of us like dry heat, but overall we're a pretty moisture-tolerant species." The council chamber was silent for several heartbeats. Then, in unison, nearly half the delegates activated emergency filtration masks, retractable shells, or personal environmental fields. One delegate panicked and tried to flee the chamber but slipped on the floor, ironically, on a trace droplet left behind by a human boot print. From the side wall, a security drone hovered in, broadcasting a message. "Moisture breach detected. Containment protocols engaged." Lin raised her hands. "Whoa. It's not a breach. It's just us." Speaker Oren turned toward his fellow leaders. "We may need to call an emergency scientific hearing on this matter. The implications are staggering." The council adjourned within minutes. Panic, Awe and curiosity blended into 1,000 murmurings and private channel pings. As the humans were escorted to their quarters, still obliviously damp from the station's higher humidity, they couldn't help but notice the wide berth every species gave them. Reyes looked around and muttered to Lin, "We're basically the galaxy's wet dogs, aren't we?" Lin sighed. "Apparently, yes." He shrugged. "We've been called worse. The water trials." The chamber designated for scientific hearings was larger than the council's main floor, yet the tension made it feel claustrophobic. Holographic projectors glowed, biological containment units gleamed, and sterilization drones hovered on standby. On one side stood the human delegation, casual and confused. On the other, dozens of alien scientists, engineers, and xenobiologists, all wearing reinforced containment suits or sealed environmental pods. Speaker Oren addressed the audience. The subject of today's trial, empirical validation of humanity's purported tolerance to dihydrogen monoxide. Reyes leaned toward Lin and whispered, "Do they always sound like they're afraid of saying water?" Lin muttered, "Don't provoke them." A tentacled xenobiologist named Dr. Hraxal floated forward. "With the council's consent, we shall begin with controlled exposure tests to verify the human body's resilience." "Knock yourselves out," Reyes said, stepping into the containment platform. A robotic arm descended with a sprayer labeled H2O, used with extreme caution. A faint mist sprayed Reyes' forearm. A gasp went through the crowd. The human scratched his arm, unfazed. "That's it. You guys moisturize, right?" Dr. Hraxal's eye stalks extended in disbelief. "You did not experience cellular rupture? Dermal decay? Feels like spa day," Reyes shrugged. Dr. Hraxal retreated. Phase 2. High-volume immersion. Reyes stepped into a transparent chamber as water filled it to his knees. He waded through the pool, splashing playfully. The chamber filled with shocked murmurs, then horror, as he sat down and let it rise to his chest. "He's not even wearing protective insulation," hissed an amphiboid researcher. Lin stepped up to the chamber. "I can top that." She took off her shoes, stepped into the second tank, and calmly submerged herself. Held her breath, waved, resurfaced. The room was dead silent. Dr. Hraxal slumped into his hover chair. "Impossible." Speaker Oren's voice quivered. "Explain how this is survivable." Lin stepped out, water cascading off her. "We evolve on a planet where this is normal. Our skin is semi-permeable, but not vulnerable. Our organs are protected. Our cells actually require water to function. Blood plasma, cytoplasm, everything." She glanced at the projector. "You've been treating water like it's acid. To us, it's life." Another human, Dr. Syra Malik, activated her datapad. A 3D hologram of Earth-spun midair, showing vast oceans, rivers, and clouds. "Our biosphere is water-rich. Oceans cover the surface, and it rains constantly. We adapted. Our sweat cools us. Our kidneys filter water. Even our food has water in it." The display shifted to show hurricanes, floods, and deep-sea divers. This is where we live." Several delegates recoiled. A plant-based species called the Xanthrix delegate burst out. "You swim in natural disasters?" "Sometimes for sport," Reyes offered. "Ever heard of surfing?" Dr. Hraxal wailed. "You play in violent, liquid death." Malik laughed. "From our view, water is the safest, most familiar substance in the world." Speaker Oren turned to the council. "Is there anyone who can verify these results independently?" An insectoid researcher, cautiously curious, stepped forward. "I will attempt a parallel test." A droplet of water was deposited onto a sterile plate in front of them. They recoiled instantly. Tissue breakdown. Immediate osmotic shock. Even a single drop is toxic. The conclusion was inescapable. Humans weren't just water-tolerant. They were built for it. In a galaxy full of dry, heat-loving, water-fearing species, humanity had evolved into moist, fluid-adapted anomalies. Councilor Dravkin, now recovered, leaned in. "But why? Why risk developing on such a volatile planet?" "We didn't choose it," Lin replied. "We adapted to it. That's what humans do. Adapt. Survive. Thrive." Another delegate asked, "Is it true your species goes through life leaking?" "We sweat, we cry, we sneeze," Lynn said matter-of-factly. "Our sinuses are full of mucous membranes. Our lungs are damp. Our eyes are bathed in fluid. Yes, most of us are always a little wet." The silence was absolute. Speaker Oren finally spoke. "Then the rumors are true. The humans are a class, 5 moisture species." Dr. Hraxal added grimly, "A walking biochemical paradox. They are both wet and alive." Lynn raised an eyebrow. "Wouldn't be the first time we broke your categories." Behind her, Reyes took another swig from his water bottle. "Hey, Doc," he called to Dr. Hraxal, "want a sip?" The scientist nearly fainted again. Counselor TRX buzzed impatiently. "This raises serious questions. If the humans are so tolerant to water, what else can they survive?" Reyes smirked. "Oh, we're just getting started." Hydrophobic hysteria. The galactic media networks exploded. Within hours of the water trials, every comm stream from the spiral core to the outer shell was dominated by the same terrifying headline: "The humans are wet." Holos showed looped footage of Ambassador Lin calmly swimming. One freeze frame showed Reyes smirking while soaked to the waist, his soaked clothes clinging like a horror display in some cultures. Panic was instantaneous. On Glay 7, schools were shut down in fear of moisture contagion. On Drycar Prime, fashion retailers began selling anti-human, hydrophobic robes lined with silver. Even the usually composed Centauran Economica released a fiscal forecast warning of an H2O panic market dip. In the Galactic Council's emergency chamber, Speaker Oren tried to retain order as delegates screamed over each other, many through sealed helmets or moisture filters. "This is biological terrorism. We must quarantine their planet. They exude fluids like living clouds. Moisture-based biowarfare is clearly their next step." Lynn stood behind a transparent containment wall, not for her protection, but for theirs. "I'd like to remind everyone," she said through the comm, "that we haven't done anything to you." Counselor Dravkin shook with panic. "You haven't needed to. You simply exist. Moistly. It's not contagious," she sighed. "We're not leaking death fog." Delegate Hurulq of the Voidkin hissed. "You're weaponizing comfort. You thrive in conditions that would dissolve our membranes." "That's not a weapon. That's just biology." "The fact that your biology is terrifying," said another delegate, "is precisely the problem." Back in their temporary quarters, the human delegation watched the news feeds in disbelief. Alien commentators, biologists, even galactic survivalists all weighed in on the human moisture threat. One particularly animated squid-like analyst slammed a tentacle on their desk. "These hairless bipeds evolved to swim through atmospheric poison. They drink intracellular solvent. They marinate their meat in it. They're making us sound like soggy supervillains," Reyes muttered, laying back on the couch. "We're living proof of evolutionary blasphemy," Malik said dryly. "We basically violated every known biological standard." Lynn was already tapping out a response on her datapad. "Then we lean in." Reyes blinked. "To being walking wet horrors?" "No, to being useful." The next morning, Lynn stood before the council again, this time with a new presentation. "Members of the council, humanity has no desire to be feared. But we understand fear. We evolve with it. We learn to use it." A pause. "But we're also explorers, survivors. And you know what else we are? Compatible." The room stilled. Lynn gestured to a projected list of previously unreachable planets. Oceanic exoplanets, storm-drenched moons, methane-rain worlds, and cloud-shrouded ocean giants. Places rich in resources, but hostile to the dry-skinned council races. "You can't go there." "We can." Counselor TRXS neural flickers pulsed with interest. "You propose an alliance?" "Exploiting your moistness." Lynn kept a straight face. "We propose cooperation. We provide the biological edge. You bring the tech. Together, we explore the galaxy's forgotten 71%. Oren leaned forward. "And if we refuse, then you keep fearing the first species in this council who doesn't see water as death." Reyes chimed in with a grin. "And keep missing out on all the good beach planets." While the council debated, the public spiraled. The alien internet split into factions. The hydrophobics, who demanded full species-wide isolation of humans, and the hydro-curious, who began celebrating fluid-positive culture. A cult emerged on 2 moons that began worshipping Earth's oceans as divine purifiers. Merchants began selling bottles of authentic Earth water, which was really just condensation scraped from the human diplomat's quarters. Reyes found one on the black market. "I'm famous," he whispered, holding up a vial labeled pure human sweat. Unfiltered. "I didn't even have to die for this." Malik snatched it from him. "Burn it." That evening, in a tense council vote, the verdict came in. Speaker Oren stood once more. "After deliberation, and upon advice of the Science Council, we reject the motion to quarantine Earth. Humanity shall not be exiled." A few groans rippled through the chamber. Furthermore, a joint exploration initiative will be established, focused on high-moisture environments deemed hazardous to member species. Human physiology shall be considered an asset. He hesitated, then added, though full environmental containment procedures will remain in place at all diplomatic functions. Lin smiled. "Fair enough." Counselor Dravkin spoke from inside his exosuit. "We will tolerate your fluids. For now," Reyes whispered. "I knew my sweat would win them over eventually." Lin elbowed him. Speaker Oren concluded, "Let it be recorded in the annals of galactic history. The humans are officially weird, but useful. Liquid diplomacy." 3 months later, the Galactic Council's flagship cruiser Unity Dawn entered orbit above Nereid 6, a planet once deemed uninhabitable by every known species due to its constant downpours and corrosive mist-seas. But not for humans. In fact, the landing party was already halfway through building a semi-permanent research base. Human engineers sloshed through knee-deep floodplains, waterproof suits flaring with blue lights, while drones floated above the relentless rainfall. Ambassador Lin Zhao stood beneath a plastic awning, watching a pod descend from the cruiser. The door hissed open to reveal Counselor TRX and a half-dozen other delegates, each wearing a high-tech environmental pod like a floating terrarium. The counselors hovered above the mud. "We are observing," TRX said cautiously. Lin beamed. "Great. Want to come down and get your feet wet?" Every delegate recoiled slightly inside their shells. "Joking," she added. "Mostly." The counselors stared as a human researcher dove headfirst into a rolling wave of foamy liquid. He surfaced laughing, goggles askew, water cascading from his face. "Is he not in pain?" asked a floating gas-based species in disbelief. "Nope," Lin replied. "That's Dr. Healy. Says it feels like a jacuzzi, minus the sulfur." Counselor Dravkin, still mistrustful but now less twitchy, hovered near the edge of the awning. "You have made this planet livable?" "Workable," Lin said. "Livable comes next. We're setting up desalinization units, hydroelectric power nodes, even algae farms." She pointed toward a cluster of structures partially submerged in a steaming lake. "Eventually, we'll have multi-species outposts here, sealed for your comfort, open for ours." Counselor Vrel, the mist-based diplomat, rippled thoughtfully. "We had written off such worlds. Because you feared water," Lin said gently. "But fear can blind you. We see opportunity." The Hydro-Exploration Initiative exploded in popularity. In months, humanity helped unlock access to over 30 previously untouched planets. Resources, data, new life forms, all harvested with the help of humans who could work through conditions that would destroy others. Lin found herself becoming the face of a strange, new form of diplomacy. Liquid diplomacy, some called it. No longer just about trade routes or treaties. Now, cooperation meant adaptation. Now, being able to get wet meant power. In one historic event, Lin led a joint delegation beneath the sulfur mist oceans of Lucernine, negotiating trade rights while standing waist-deep in a bioluminescent marsh. A Krask observer fainted inside their armor. The deal went through. Another time, Reyes challenged a group of zealous hydrophobics to a water duel which turned out to be a cannonball contest into a boiling spring. He won. Naturally. Diplomacy is weird, he muttered as he toweled off. Yet not all were pleased. Hydrophobic factions across the council still protested. Accusations arose that humans were building moisture dominance, undermining dry world values, spreading their biological abnormality like an infection. In response, Earth's leadership issued a message. We are not here to conquer your worlds. We are here to reach the ones you never could. If water is your fear, then let us go first. If you drown in panic, let us swim through it. We do not fear moisture. We do not flinch from the storm. We are human. The message, titled Declaration of the Soaked, went viral. TRX, once a staunch critic, now offered support. Perhaps strength lies in adaptation, not sterilization, Dravkin grudgingly added. Still, your species is the only one that would find heroism in being perpetually damp. Lynn smiled. We take pride where we can. Back aboard Unity Dawn, the council convened one last time on the matter. Speaker Oren stood at the center of the chamber. Let the record show that humanity has enabled cross-species exploration into hostile biomes, that their tolerance to liquid solvents has brought new understanding. He paused, and that their behavior, while unconventional, has proven invaluable. There were murmurs of agreement, even applause. Lynn stood. We appreciate the acknowledgement, and we invite any species willing to work with us, learn from us, or if you're brave enough, take a dip with us. Reyes raised a water bottle in salute. First one in the pool gets Galactic naming rights. Everyone ignored him. Almost everyone. Counselor Vrel hovered closer. This pool, is it like an ocean? Smaller, cleaner, chlorinated, Lynn replied. And one swims in it. Exactly. Vrel pulsed with thought. Perhaps one day. That night, Lynn stood on the viewing deck, looking out over the endless misty seas of Nereid 6. The sky was a dark violet, thick clouds rolling, rain falling in sheets that shimmered under the planetary lights. Reyes joined her, sipping from yet another bottle. You realize we've basically changed the council's relationship with water forever. They used to think it was death, she said. Now, they think it's potential. We turned sweating into diplomacy. Lynn laughed. Yeah, we're weird like that. Behind them, the sound of dripping, splashing, humming drones, and distantly alien laughter. The first mixed-species hydrolab was already up and running. And beyond that, more water worlds waited. More storms, more waves, and, perhaps most importantly, more awe.